Previously in the Gospel of John.
One of the driving questions of the Gospel of John. Are you satisfied with your life? And if not, can anything be done about it?
What is it that keeps you from seeing that God is birthing you to new life? What would it be like to set it down, stretch out, and be born anew?
Because John is giving us this intentional, overarching story of who Jesus is. The signs are pointing to who Jesus is, because Jesus is the I am.
I'm coming to you, Jesus says, in weakness and vulnerability, because I refuse to dominate or frighten you. But I have what you need to be able to live Zoe life, and I want to give it to you.
In fact, the most important thing to do is to stop doing and abide in the love of Jesus.
And my kid turned to me and said, you know, you'd get a lot more out of this if you believed.
But wait, there's still more. During the 40 days of the season of Lent, Salthouse is going through the second half of John's Gospel called the Book of Glory, which is kind of a weird name since the next 7 chapters of John's Gospel all takes place during the 24 hours before Jesus dies in a humiliating and brutal way. Not exactly what you think of when you think of glory. But this is exactly what Jesus came to reveal. God's glory is God's self-giving love. As Jesus says, there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Now, before we get to the end, Jesus gathers us for one last meal because he has some really important things to tell you, his disciples. So let's lower our defenses and open our hearts, or what John calls believe, as we go even deeper into the Gospel of John.
Hey, everybody. Am I on over there? Great. I heard someone this morning say, oh, it's tree day. Yeah, it's tree day. I was really getting into that palm waving stuff too. Hey, we're going to play a quick game that we, like if you were to come out to Yash Youth at Salt House on a Sunday night, this is something that we do there. But I have a contestant. Hey, Tim Wolbrecht, can you come up here? We're going to play a little game. Yeah, give Tim a hand. We're going to play a little game called Truth or Lie. Truth or Lie. Because in one of these envelopes, there is a true story from Tim. In one of these envelopes, there is a lie. And he's going to read the contents of one of these. Okay. Which arm?
Have them choose.
Left or right? Left. My left.
Yes. I would have done the right one.
All right.
While water skiing, I had...
Lie. That's that one over there. Yeah.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah. Game is done.
While water skiing, I had what turned out to be an attack of appendicitis. I was rushed to a country hospital where they cut my swimming suit off, injected me in the lower back twice, cut my appendix out, and I was awake the whole time.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now we can ask him some questions. Let's get to the bottom. What lake was that? What lake was that this all happened at?
I'm sorry, what?
What lake? What lake was that on?
Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri.
Okay.
You have a scar to prove your story?
Oh, we're getting right to it.
No comment.
Okay. All right. Ooh. I don't know. Yeah.
Why did they have to cut your swimming suit off?
Oh.
Because they felt that they did not have time. Okay, because it really was not looking very good. I mean, they go, oh, we got to get in there now. And so they didn't bother to, yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of other stuff around that too.
Oh, okay. What was something? One more question. Oh, how old are you?
14.
14. Okay. All right.
Hey, there's a question.
Who was with you?
In the operating room or? It was family. And some friends, they had some boats.
All right. That pans out.
We
There was one more question. Pam.
Why didn't they knock you out?
Oh, why didn't they knock you out?
They didn't feel they had time.
Back to
That's
the
a good
time
question.
thing. Okay.
I'm sorry, what? Okay, I think I'm done.
All right. Hold on. Stay up here for one more second. All right. So, what do you? Okay. Now let's talk. What do you think? Lie. You think true? Ooh. Okay. Wow. We are divided on this. Okay. What should we go with though? Let's say it like you mean it now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. We're gonna go with lie.
It's true.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they really did not. Now keep in mind this is 1962. Okay, so operating rooms were kind of sparse. That's better. Sparse for that matter. I was actually transported by my parents in a car following a sheriff's deputy for 20 miles in rural country, hills going like this, so forth and so on. Yeah, got in there and they pressed on my stomach. I almost hit the ceiling. And they said, well, we're not 100% sure it's appendix, but we're going in now. And my mother, who's an RN, she was able to stand right there with me, masked up, but she didn't gown up or anything, but, you just didn't. Anyway, and the other thing is, I was awake during the whole thing, yes. I also watched the operation until I felt I was sick because above me, there was one of those, not a mirror, but one of those stained glass thing that would reflect light. And I opened my eyes and they're cutting in and I go, I think I'm going to be sick.
I think we're all going to be sick.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, give Tim a hand.
I'm not going to show you my scar because I ended up getting 3 infections and they had to reopen, so it's really ugly.
You can ask him later about the scar. All right. Hey, so we have now entered Jerusalem. We heard about the betrayal last week. We heard about the denial last week. And now we find ourselves before Pontius Pilate. Let's read this together. We're in John 18:28. Then the Jewish leaders took Jesus from Caiaphas to the palace of the Roman governor. By now it was early morning, and to avoid ceremonial uncleanliness, they did not enter the palace because they wanted to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate came out to them and asked, "What charges are you bringing against this man?" "If he were not a criminal," they replied, "we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." "But we have no right to execute anyone," they objected. This took place to fulfill what Jesus had said about the kind of death he was going to die. Pilate then went back inside the palace, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Is that your own idea?" Jesus asked. "Or did others talk to you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied. "Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king, then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." Pilate retorted, "What is truth? What is truth?" This is a fascinating question. What is truth? It's always been a fascinating question. Continues to become an even more complicated and challenging question as we get better and better at deception and spin. And now we've got lots of tools at our disposal to do this. Look at these two. They look just like, what a great couple. Wow, that's so sweet. And what are they, are they knitting? Is that, They're baking, they're knitting. That looks very sweet, doesn't it? What is truth? What is truth? You know, the ancient Greeks, you're going to have that in your mind for a while now, I know. The ancient Greeks had a way of answering this question. Truth is what is real. It's the real thing, and not just reality, but the ideal of reality beyond that which exists. So, yes, there is music stand, but even beyond music stand, there is an ideal out there of the ideal, the realest real music stand, the truest music stand. It is the truth. But the ancient Hebrews, they had a different way of answering the question, what is truth? Truth is not philosophical so much as moral. Truth is the right thing. It's the way of justice. It's the way of right relationships and ethical code. That is what truth is. And so Pilate, he's trained in both. He has both kinds of truth, both Platonic philosophy and Roman ethical code. So I want to give, and I want to invite you to give, Pilate just the benefit of the doubt this morning and assume that he got into politics in the first place because at one time he was deeply committed to truth. That he believed that if truth governs, then the people will flourish, right? And then you know how it is, like over time, the pressures of leadership, they just wear him down, they wear him down. He learned how to play the game of politics pretty well. He advanced until he reached the point where he doesn't even know if he believes in truth anymore. What is truth? Over the last 4 years, I've talked to so many healthcare professionals who they got into the profession because they felt called to be a healer in the world. And then over time, they get worn down by broken system, by big pharma, by medicine as business, and the endless charting. You with me, nurses? And they wonder, wow, what is healthcare? And I've talked with so many teachers who got into the profession because they felt called to educate young minds and hearts. And then over time, they get worn down by classroom behavioral issues and administration politics and angry parents. And now they wonder, what is education? So do you have a little empathy for Pilate? I mean, think about it. He has just had an insurrection on his hands. You know Barabbas? The prisoner that the crowds pressure Pilate to release instead of Jesus, those same crowds that waved palm branches and yelled, "Save us." Did you know that Barabbas was an insurrectionist? This takes on a little bit of a different meaning these days, right? Barabbas was like the Bible's version of the QAnon shaman with the horns and everything smashing into the Capitol building. So you can imagine Rome breathing down Pilate's neck. He's got Caesar calling him, asking him, "Hey, Pilate, do you have Jerusalem under control? Or do you need me to send someone down there and relieve you of your position, Pilate?" And now it's Passover, and Jerusalem has doubled in size because of all the pilgrims coming in to celebrate. Pilate is not staffed for this kind of crowd control. The city is a powder keg. It is ready to blow. The religious leaders are telling Pilate, this guy Jesus is another one of those insurrectionists, you can take that off the screen, thanks, who just marched into town with an army of disciples ready to overthrow your government, Pilate. So, are you going to do something or what? So Pilate asks Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pretty direct. It's a trick question, of course. Judea is not allowed to have a king. They are occupied by Rome. Rome, who was the most brutal global power the world had ever seen. To say, yes, I'm a king, is to openly admit to treason. You remember the slave rebellion led by Spartacus? Tim does, he was there. This was about, I'm sorry, Tim, I love you. I love you, brother. It was about 100 years before Jesus. Rome crucified 6,000 of Spartacus's soldiers on either side of this major highway called is it the Appian Way? Is that how it's Appian Way? Which ran from Rome to Capua, and they left their bodies there to rot for years as a way to say, don't even think about it. So do you see the stakes attached to Pilate's question now to Jesus? Are you the King of the Jews? And look how Jesus answers this question. He answers it with a question that reveals the bind of leadership that Pilate's in. Jesus asks him, so is that your idea? Or did others talk to you? Isn't Jesus a boss? Jesus exposes the exact thing that's preventing Pilate from recognizing truth. Because he's afraid. He's afraid. On one side, he's afraid of Caesar. On the other side, he's afraid of the crowds. And in the middle, Jesus and Pilate are having a conversation about what is true. And they both know that one of them is going to give their life for truth. But which one of them will it be? The Greeks define truth as the real thing, and there's something true about that. The Hebrews define truth as the right thing, and there's something true about that. But the Gospel of John has an even different take on truth. The word truth is used 10 times, only 10 times in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the synoptics combined. Only 10 times. Guess how many times in the book of John? 48 times. Do you think that truth is an important concept to John? Here's 3 things that John wants us to know about truth. The first one is this, that truth is a way of life. It says, whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. So for John, truth is it's not an ideal. It's highly practical. It's the way we live every day. We stop pretending to be anything that we're not. We don't conceal our intentions and our actions. We don't manipulate. We don't scheme. We live our lives authentically, transparently, honestly, in the light. We've been talking, with our Salt House youth all year about this, living integrated lives where our outside and our inside match. Truth is a way of life. That's the first thing that John wants us to know about truth. The second thing that John wants us to know about truth is that truth is freeing. Jesus says, you'll know the truth, and the truth is going to set you free. When you were growing up, were you ever told this? When you tell the truth, you don't have to try and keep track of your lies. Well, who told me this? Oh, who can I say that to? When we tell the truth about ourselves, we live as incredibly free people. Just the freest people that I know how to tell the truth about themselves. So if you want to live in truth, if you want to live free, tell the truth about yourself and make it a way of life. Those are the first 2 things. The third thing is this. The Gospel of John says that truth is a person. Truth is a person. Jesus said, I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the life. This means that truth is subjective. And I don't mean that in the way that truth is just whatever you want to make it. What I mean is truth is a subject. It's not an object that you can possess and control or even systematize. It is alive, it is personal, it's a person. Truth does not describe Jesus. Jesus describes truth. So the Gospel of John defines what truth is by showing us Jesus. by showing us his life, by showing us his encounters with other people, including Pilate. So Pilate asks Jesus the same question that Pilate has wanted to know his entire life. He does this in every single conversation with every person that he ever meets. But for Pilate, the question is, what is truth? And the irony is that truth, the living embodiment of truth, is standing right in front of him. And he can't recognize it. Even if it bit him on his nose, as my dad used to say, he couldn't recognize it. It's like asking Sue Bird or LeBron James, what even is basketball? And the saddest part of the story is that Pilate doesn't want to hear the answer from Jesus. He's standing right in front of him. He doesn't want to hear the answer. What would have happened, right? What would have happened if he sincerely asked the question and if he sincerely listened? What would Jesus say next, you know? I imagine him saying something like, Pilate, I know you're scared. And I know you can't govern and be afraid at the same time. That you're terrified that either Caesar will have your head or this crowd will eat you alive. And you think that truth doesn't matter anymore, only self-preservation matters. But I'm going to show you what truth looks like because I'm going to give my life for my friends. I'm going to give my life for the cosmos. I'm going to give my life for you. And that's truth. That's truth. Don't you want that truth? I want that truth too. Let's pray for it. Will you pray with me? Jesus, at the beginning, we wanted to see if we could spot the truth. Silly parlor game, but there's a real way in which it feels like it's becoming harder and harder to spot truth. But here's what we know for sure, that when we are loved by you, we know a kind of freedom that makes it possible to tell the truth about ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we stop hiding and we stop pretending, and that results in a life lived in truth, which is what we saw you do, because you are truth. And we also know, and this week is going to just show us even more, that the God-hating world couldn't handle that type of truth and wanted you silenced and wanted you dead. But you gave your life for the God-hating world because that's how much you love the God-hating world. And I don't know anything truer than that, Jesus. So will you fill us now through your Holy Spirit? Will you fill us now with this truth and this love? And we ask it in your name. Amen.